All right, this is exercise 1. We'll get down here and we're going to identify each of these sentences as either simple, compound, complex, compound, complex, sentence fragment, or run-on sentence. And it's the same thing that we do since the beginning of time. So let's find our prepositional phrases. All right, we found our prepositional phrases. I didn't see any infinitive phrases. Let's find our subjects and verb. Emperor is a subject. Who is a subject? Was is a verb. Fond is a verb. He is a subject. Spent is a verb. Okay. So who was so excessively fond of new clothes? I'm going to do this in different colors so that you can see the different clauses. That's one clause. Many years ago, there was an emperor. That's a different clause. And that he spent all of his money in dress is yet a different clause. So let's do blue. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put my brackets around these. And even though it's easier to see when I put them in different colors, I like to be able to put them in different colors too. Okay, let's see if we can identify the types of clauses that we have now. And I'm going to go ahead and just break this out so that it is easier to identify since I'm doing it on the computer. Okay, so the first thing we do is we find, we forgot to identify that verb. First thing we do is identify, we've got a subject and a verb in each of these clauses. And now we need to identify whether it's a subordinate or an independent. So our sentence is an emperor was there many years ago. That tells when. So this is an independent clause. The second one, who was so excessively fond of new clothes. Actually, fond is not a verb. I don't know what I was thinking. Fond is an adjective. I'm sorry. Was is our verb. So and excessively are adverbs modifying fond. Okay, so who is a relative pronoun. So we're going to identify that as a relative pronoun, and therefore this is a subordinate clause. Even though we've got our subject, it is acting as the subordinating factor in that, who. Okay, and then the next one, we go to our subject, we go to the left, we have the relative pronoun that, which makes it a subordinate clause. Okay, so this sentence has one independent clause and two subordinate clauses. And we are trying to identify the sentence structure. So if we have one independent and two subordinate, that means this sentence is a complex sentence. Okay, let's go to the next one. In the least is a prepositional phrase. About his soldiers is a prepositional phrase. To go is an infinitive. To the theater is a prepositional phrase that is inside of the infinitive phrase. For the opportunities, it's a prepositional phrase. To display his new clothes is an infinitive phrase. Okay. I'm going to just go through here and break this out. All right, he is a subject. Did trouble is a verb. And then nor did he care. He is a subject. Did care is a verb. Okay. So this is one complete clause. And then nor did he go. All of this is another complete clause. So I have two clauses here. Now I need to identify which type it is. So let me put my brackets around it. He did not trouble himself in the least about his soldiers. And I just broke that at the semicolon. And then here, nor did he care. And then all of this is just modifiers. Okay, so I go to my subject and it should read nor he did care. So nor is a key word right here. We have to determine if that's a subordinating conjunction or what. Well, I know that is a coordinating conjunction. So this is an independent clause. So this sentence, we have two independent clauses. When we have two independent clauses, that means we have a compound sentence. All right, number 3, he had a different suit for each hour of the day. Okay, those are prepositional phrases. We don't need those. And then he is a subject. Had is a verb. We put brackets around it. We have one clause here. It has a subject and a verb. We go to our subject. We look to the left. We do not have a subordinating conjunction or relative pronoun. So this is an independent clause. And one independent clause is equal to a simple sentence. All right, number 4, in the large town. And at the court are prepositional phrases. All right, let's continue. Time is our subject. Past is a verb. Which is a subject. Was is a verb. And strangers is a subject. And arrived is the verb. Okay, now let me break this out at this point into one clause on each line so we can identify it easier. Okay, and I only will, so I've just got it broken down to where we have one subject and verb on each thing. So let's put brackets around it. So we only want one set of subjects and verbs in each bracket. That way we can identify it easier. Okay, now we have to go and see time passed merrily in the large town. We go to our subject, we look to the left, and we see if we can find any look, we're looking for subordinating conjunction or relative pronoun. We don't have any, so that makes this an independent clause. All right, we do the same thing for which was his capital, but the word which is a relative pronoun. Okay, that makes this a subordinate clause. And then strangers arrived every day at the court. We don't have any we don't have any subordinated conjunctions or relative pronouns. So this sentence, we have two independent clauses and one subordinate clause. That makes it a compound complex sentence. Okay. Number 5, one day, 2 rogues calling themselves weavers made their appearance. So rogues is our subject. And made is our verb. And I don't have any prepositional phrases. I have one day as an adverb phrase telling when, and I have calling themselves weavers. That is an adjective phrase modifying rogues. And then, so rogues made what appearance as a direct object. So this whole thing is one independent clause because we only have one set of subjects and verbs. I do not have a subordinated conjunction or relative pronoun that comes before that. So that makes this one independent clause, which makes this a simple sentence. Okay. Now let's go to number 6. To weave stuff is an infinitive phrase of the most beautiful colors and elaborate patterns. All that is a prepositional phrase. So I'm going to say it's a prepositional phrase inside of an infinitive phrase. And we're going to mark that the way we've been marking it all year. So all of that. All right. They spread word. So they is a subject and spread is a verb. Well, they spread word. Okay. So that's, and then that they knew how. They is a subject and knew is a verb. Okay, so now we got to figure, we don't have any more subjects and verbs. So I'm going to break this, they spread word, because I know the word is the object of the word spread, and I'm going to divide it right there. All right, they spread word is one clause. I'm going to put brackets around that. Now we go and look at our subject. We go to the left and we say, are there any subordinating conjunctions or relative pronouns? No. So that makes this an independent clause. And then the next one, we're going to put a bracket around the entire thing because we only have one set of subjects and verbs. So we go to our subject, we go to the left, we have the word that. The word that is a relative pronoun, so I'm going to highlight that in green. So now that makes this a subordinate clause. So if I have a sentence that has one independent and one subordinate, then I have a complex sentence. Okay, number 7, from invisible cloth is a prepositional phrase. Clothes is a subject. Were manufactured is a verb. So we have one set of subjects and verbs in this. So the whole thing is one clause. I go to my subject. I go to the left. There is a personal pronoun. It does not make anything subordinate. So this is an independent clause. If I have one independent clause, then I have a simple sentence. Okay, number 8. These clothes would, I'm sorry, I feel like everything's wiggling. These clothes would identify everyone who was unfit for the office. Okay, he held or who is extraordinarily simple in character. There's our prepositional phrases. Let's find our subjects and verbs. Clothes is a subject. Would identify is our verb. Who is a subject. Was a verb. Unfit is an adjective. He is a subject. Held is a verb. Who is a subject. And was is a verb. Okay, I'm going to break these out. These clothes would identify everyone. Everyone is the object of would identify, so I'm going to break the sentence right there. And then I'm going to break it right here because I don't want any more than one subject or verb inside. I'm going to break it at the comma. Okay, now I have to figure out about these. These clothes would identify everyone. Put my brackets around that. I have one subject, one verb. I go to my subject. I look to the left. The word these is a demonstrative pronoun. So I'm going to say this is an independent clause. Who was unfit for the office? Who is a relative pronoun. So this clause is a subordinate clause because it begins with a relative pronoun. Let's make it not highlighted in green. So this is a subordinate clause. Now this one is a little difficult. This has an understood that, and the only reason you know that is because you just know that. If you just say that who was unfit for the office that he held, it makes sense. So it's a subordinate clause because it has an understood relative pronoun. And I'm sorry, I can't explain that any better than if you put it in and it makes sense, it's probably omitted. And then this one has a relative pronoun. So this is a subordinate clause. So this sentence, we have one independent clause and 3 subordinate clauses. And that means we have a complex sentence. Okay. Number 9. These must indeed be splendid clothes. We don't have any prepositional phrases. The subject is these. Must is our verb. And be is a verb. And we have one set of subjects and verbs. So this is an independent clause, which makes this a simple sentence. Okay, count up the number you have correct. You can determine how you want to figure that out. You can do it by clause, you can do it by sentence, you can do it by every marking that we make. It's up to you. And see, hopefully this is something that you're catching on to.